This is Cheryl Stepp. Welcome back to the Creating Resilience video series. This is number 22. And in this video, we are jumping up into the branches of the collective well-being tree, where we're going to work on competency, which is rebuilding those executive functions and the positive self-identity. And today we're going to really focus on executive functions. Executive functions is that front seat thinking state in our brain. They're really important in building resilience for future trauma and stress because they provide us a true sense of control and they actually bring conscious thought to our actions. It's where we are thoughtfully responding. I'm going to show you this brief video of executive functions. It comes from the Center on the Developing Child at Harvard University. You can access it online. And I want you just to pay attention to what is going on in the video so that you can understand the importance of executive functions and how we use them every day.
We're not born with the skills we need to get things done successfully, especially in this fast and complicated world. But here's the good news. The skills we need can be taught, and they form a foundation for self-regulation and help build social emotional skills. Grouped together, 3 of the most foundational are called executive functions. Executive functions are a set of 3 cognitive skills: flexible attention, working memory, and inhibitory control. When complex things are happening around us, executive functions help us stay on task, make plans, set goals, and carry them out successfully. They act like a traffic flagger, intentionally managing and coordinating many things at once, like helping drivers and pedestrians stay safe and making sure they obey the rules of the road. Flexible attention allows us to shift our attention when necessary, directing it to the most important tasks and sustaining it while we're working on them. Flexible attention allows us to switch focus quickly from one thing to another. Working memory is the ability to remember and use important information, like driving directions. Working memory allows us to store important information so we can access it when needed. Inhibitory control is the ability to pause and think before we act. It helps us resist impulses. It keeps us on task and helps us set goals and carry them out. Executive functions help students learn and be successful in school, solving math problems, following directions, reading, playing sports, and resolving conflicts. These skills will last a lifetime and be used every day in school, at work, and at home.
I hope that made a lot of sense. It does to me, and I think it was just a great visual way to learn about executive functions. So let's take a little deeper dive. Adversity and stress definitely impact the development of executive functions because our brain becomes more focused on survival when we're living in a very stressful or traumatizing environment. And in that survival mode, all other non-essential information is tuned out. So if you are living in a very chaotic life, you're not going to be worried about flexible attention and remembering one thing to the next. You are just living in that moment. So the brain is not able to even focus on learning if there's a lot of stress and adversity. You're simply surviving. And because those learning opportunities are missed, the brain neural network in the front part of the brain does not develop as it should. And that's where your executive functions are. The executive functions are 3 main things. It's what is called inhibitory control, which is impulse control and emotional control. So I label them separately as two things, but you might hear researchers call it inhibitory control. Impulse control means that we are able to stop ourselves from doing things we shouldn't do and start doing things that we should. And emotional control is what we've just spent the last few videos talking about, being able to identify, regulate, and express our emotions. Another executive function they talked about in the video was working memory, the ability to learn something in one place and then apply it in another. And they showed you some good details with that as far as, driving down the road or even learning something in school and then applying it at home also. And then flexible attention, our ability to shift between tasks and come back and forth. But these three executive functions also lead to more front seat thinking. Like, how do we plan and prioritize? We have to have flexible attention, working memory, and inhibitory control all to plan and prioritize what we're doing throughout the day. And they help us organize our thoughts, our physical being, our actions. They also help us with task initiation, getting started doing something that we know we really should do. And then if we have good working memory, flexible attention, inhibitory control, and we've been able to plan and organize and start our task, it's easier for us to have self-evaluation, to be able to go back and look at where we've been and how we could have made it better. So emotional control and impulse control are everything that we've learned so far in the roots and the trunk of the tree. So our caring, connected communities in the roots of the tree, being a good role model, having caregiver reflection and regulation, using attunement, using routines. And then up in the trunk of the tree, having calming and good communication, identification, modulation or regulation, and expression of emotions. Making sure we're acknowledging those small successes along the way and supporting self-care and regulation. All of these things help with emotional control and impulse control. That's why we had to build the tree from the roots up, because part of what's up in the branches is already taken care of from what we've learned in the roots and the trunk of the tree. So working memory is our ability to hold on to and work with information, and flexible attention is our ability to switch our thoughts and our action when something changes, switching back and forth. And they really work together very closely. They help us remember really relevant information, but they also help us not focus on irrelevant information that interferes with the task that we're doing. So they work very closely together. To strengthen working memory and flexible attention, you can play all sorts of games. Games are a great way to work on your working memory and flexible attention. The little card game in the corner here is the matching game, which a lot of times we play with kids, but it helps us remember. It's a memory of where is that card, and then the flexible attention of maybe we flip over two cards, but can we come back three plays later and remember? And all sorts of games use working memory as to where we are in the game and what we're doing and how we have to shift back and forth when different players take over. So if you're working with students or your own children or other family members, playing games is really helpful for executive functions. They also help us focus on each and every step. So you want to help others focus on each and every step. We talked about that when we were in responses, and we talked about breaking down tasks into smaller and simpler steps. You definitely want to talk through transitions, especially if there's somebody that has difficulty with that flexible attention, really paying attention to when you're shifting from one activity to another, whether that's shifting from bath time to brushing teeth or shifting in at a workplace from one focus of work to another. Doing any type of group problem solving is really helpful for working memory and flexible attention because it's so good to have other people's points of view. When you have other people's points of view, then you're able to be flexible and actually see something from someone else's point of view and take that into your working memory and work it throughout what your plan is. So your reflection with this part is, do you want to strengthen any of your executive functions? Think about them. I know that my working memory is one that I really want to keep strengthening as I get older, especially. And then the action step is pay attention to your ability to focus on tasks and then apply that knowledge over the next few days. So, can you focus? And then are you able to focus better in future times? Just think about all the different things we've been talking about and how to apply some of that knowledge. That's working memory. Thank you so much for joining me throughout this series. I will see you again soon.